So this is going to be a how to play against and as Condi Thief video. And I'm going to show you the build first, and then I'm going to show you some gameplay as Condi Thief to show you kind of the mindset of a Condi Thief, and then I'm going to show you how I deal with Condi Thieves as a thief myself, and then sort of like how I play against other players and how they deal with me as a Condi Thief. So initially, the traits are going to be Trickery, Deadly Arts, Daredevil, and you're going to take Caltrops on dodge. So every time that you dodge, you're going to put Caltrops right underneath you, and it's important to have really good positioning for these because they add a lot of damage eventually, especially on down bodies. And what that means is you want to be dodging when the enemies are on top of you so that it places the Caltrops on top of them, rather than just like say the enemy's like right here and then you dodge over here, and then instead of going through your Caltrops they just go towards you. So positioning is pretty important for that. Bountiful Theft is a boon rip, and because of the priority removing Aegis, it makes sure that your steal can't be blocked by Aegis, which is really good. And it's also good at removing resistance. Even though the priority is not prioritizing resistance, it can still get resistance if they have less than 4 boons. And then you have a bunch of traits here that just give you more initiative, and then you have Bewildering Ambush, which gives confusion on steal. And the important thing here is to look at the tooltip. It says 240 damage over 4 seconds with a 6 stack of confusion, and then it says 1000 damage on skill usage. So on skill usage, you take 5 times as much damage as you would if you just sat there and just ate the the duration of the condition. So it's important to know that when you have that confusion on you, you shouldn't panic and spam your abilities, because you're going to be doing more damage to yourself than you're going to be helping yourself. Unless, of course, you're using an ability that, say, like cleanses. But you have to be careful because there are cover Condis. Now, the real thing to think about is it worth to try to cleanse it, or is it worth to just wait it out? Now, 240 damage is really not that much, so it's not that risky to wait it out. The problem is if you have like poison on you, and that's what you do want to cleanse. So we'll look at the Deadly Arts, which gives you most of your poison. So stealing inflicts 13 seconds of 3 stacks of poison, and when you're in down state you do 2 stacks of poison every attack. This is a pretty long duration poison, so that's when you do get stolen to or steal to someone, the poison is really going to be, it says like 6,000 damage there, and of course it does healing reduction as well. So if you're going to try to out heal it, it's not going to be too effective. What you want to do is cleanse the poison, or wait out the cover Condis and then cleanse the poison. Mug is just adds to the burst. It's a lot better than the trap in my opinion, because using your heal skill is not usually when you want to be doing damage. You want to be doing damage when you steal, so Mug gives you that extra damage, and it can't crit anyways, so it's not that bad synergy with Carrion Amulet. So yeah, you weaken people whenever you give them poison, and you're doing poison all the time, so your weakness uptime is pretty high. If you want to counter pressure a Condi Thief, you're going to usually want to wait out the weakness. So that's just another reason why you don't want to panic and try to counter pressure them as soon as they steal to you, because you're going to have weakness anyways. So usually playing safe, going to a kite spot or something like that is much more effective than trying to counter pressure or spam abilities immediately. And then you have Panic Strike, which has been nerfed to have a 2-second duration. When you immobilize someone, it gives poison, and that works really well with your short bow sneak attack, which you can't really get too often, and mostly you'll be using it with sword 2 because it's how you get in and out, and it's just free poison application. Even though it doesn't do that much damage, it kind of adds up. The thing is to not panic though when you do see poison on you, because you don't know what the duration is necessarily unless you look at it. And you know, a 700 damage poison like this right here isn't something to blow your cleanse on, right? So the real things that are going to be doing damage to you is the spider venom and the steel. And then you have potent poison, which just increases your poison damage and duration. So looking at Daredevil, you just have Brawler's Tenacity. It just gives you more value on your heal skill, which gives you dodges, because it's better than Withdraw, because Withdraw doesn't do any damage. This does damage, so it allows you to be more aggressive with your heal skill, so you can keep doing damage in situations where you run out of resources that are aggressive, so you can use your heal skill aggressively in a way. And then you have Escapist Absolution. It's just pretty nice Condi clear, I would say, because the build generally has low sustain otherwise. You could take Pulmonary, but it's not as effective. It's only really useful for choking gas, interrupts. It could be useful though, because you're using Carrion and this can't crit anyways. So if you're really looking for more damage, you could go Pulm, but this is generally, I mean, you don't have much Condi cleanse other than Signet and Sword 2 Return. And then lastly is your Lotus dodge. So you have to be in combat for this to proc. And what it does is a whirl finisher that does up to 3 targets. It'll do 3 dagger attacks towards them. So maximum of 9 daggers will come out, and it'll do bleeding, torment, and cripple. And you can see the cripple is 1 second duration. So even though it's a cover Condi, it's not something that you want to be cleansing, right? If you cleanse a 1 second cripple instead of a 12-second poison, you're gonna feel pretty bad, right? So the torment 3 seconds and the bleed 5 seconds, yeah, those are pretty effective cover Condis, but just be aware that the cover Condis on Condi Thief, they'll end. They're not forever. And another thing to think of is because it's a whirl finisher, you can put down your shortbow 4 and then use your dodge roll to get even more poison because of the poison bolts. And one combo that's really good, and I'll show you, is, or one mechanic that's really good with the Lotus dodge is, because it hits up to a maximum of 3 targets, you can kind of manipulate your positioning in a way that makes them hit the same target. So if I stand here, it's going to want to hit, okay, I'm not in combat. It's going to want to hit, so it hits these 3 targets kind of. But if it wants to hit these 3 targets, but I position myself inside this one, so that even though it's trying to hit this one will kind of line of sight for it, and it'll eat all of them instead. So I'll do this, and as you can see, it takes, well, this one took a little bit because my positioning wasn't amazing, but as you can see, it sort of took the hits for it, kind of like the Binding Blade on Guardian, the Greatsword 5. It's sort of like that. So as you can see, it takes a lot more Condis because it eats up some of the other ones. And also just dodging on top of them puts the Caltrops in them. So it just puts up a lot of bleeds right there. So that's a 500 tick bleed right there. So yeah, dodging on top of your enemies is really good. But also dodging with the whirl inside of a poison field is even better. So that's going to be one of your main damaging combos right there, is put down poison field and then dodge on top of them once they try to aggress you in the poison field. Yeah, so that's, other than spider venom and your steel, that's going to be your main way of getting damage, because Condi Thief has really bad sustained damage, to be honest. It has really high burst, but other than the spider venom and the steel, it's kind of like a power weapon set with traits that give Condis. So the traits don't really sustain your damage as well as weapon skills will. So it's important to know the cooldowns of spider venom and steel, because those are the main things that you want to be using your cleanse on. And then when those are off cooldown, you just don't want to stand in their poison fields or like stand on top of them. You do want to be aggressive though, and push them when they do have things on cooldown. You don't want to play passive the whole time. So spider venom is a really good damaging utility because it shares to your teammates. So what a lot of people do, and this is really bad in my opinion, is they'll precast venoms. Precasting Basilisk isn't that bad, but precasting spider venom is really bad because it doesn't, unless you're sharing it to your teammates, like maybe at the start of the game when you're coming out of spawn, you can share it with your teammates. But say if you're in like a +1 situation and your teammate's right here and the enemy's right here, and you use spider venom back here, you're not sharing it to anyone. So the maximum you can get is 6 ticks of spider venom. But say I go in and steal, and then I share, and then I use all of my damaging Condis, and then my teammate would also have spider venom on him too. That's double the potential value in damage. So another reason why that's good is because when you see spider venom up, it's pretty predictable that they want to go in and do their damage. So like if you do see spider venoms up, you want to dodge that, because when a venom misses, the proc will go away. So I'll show you here to this golem who is invulnerable. So I'll put on the venom and then it will miss since it's invulnerable. So I'm losing venom stacks by missing. So when you see that the venom is up, you want to dodge the next couple attacks. And how you can do that is just when they dodge, it will apply at least 3 attempts on venom. So just dodging their dodge skill will remove a lot of poison, will proactively cleanse poison, sort of, because it's just not happening to you. So like if I try to get my Lotus here, it's going to use all the stacks right here on just this mob right here. So yeah, avoiding venom when you see it is up, knowing when they might use the venom is really important to know. That's a pretty good time to use your cleanse skills, and then knowing when they want to steal. So a lot of thieves will use steal, which is a instant cast skill, but they'll use it with the infiltrator strike, which will give it a sort of like a an animation to it, even though it doesn't really have an animation. It's got a really small animation because it actually has 2 parts to the skill, but that's another issue. But the real thing is, if you see a thief at 900 plus 1200 range, so if they're at like 2100 range, I mean that's kind of hard to see, but if they use 2 and then steal, you can kind of see that it's coming, right? It's really important to be aware of where the Condi Thief is, because if you get stolen to, then yeah, it's pretty detrimental to you. But you can, if you do get stolen to, then don't panic. Use your cleanses if you have really high cleanse. Like if you have a lot of cleanses, then use it, obviously. But if you don't have a lot of cleanses, run to a no port spot. So like I can't steal to something up here. Maybe I can, I don't know. No one's ever stolen them here, but go to a no port spot, wait out the cover Condis. Condi thieves can't really chase into no port spots because a lot of their damage is, their Condi damage is tied to Infiltrator's Strike or Short Bow, which is kind of slow and if you're constantly moving, then it's going to be hard to land. So yeah, once you get stolen to, go to like a no port spot so they can't keep applying cover Condis to you, and then try to cleanse the poison, because that's what's going to do the most damage if you don't panic and kill yourself to confusion. So how conditions work in Guild Wars 2 is whenever you get a new condition on your bar, it'll put it to the left of your older conditions, and if you get more of an older condition, it'll just put it on the same stack. And the conditions more to the left will be prioritized for cleansing first by any skill that says cleanses a condition. Now there are some exceptions to this, but generally, yes, it will cleanse the conditions that are the leftmost. And there are also some skills that will cleanse specific conditions like movement impairing conditions, or you have some warrior skills that will ignore blind and stuff like that. So it's important to know all of the condition cleansing abilities of your class and to know the order that you want to use them in order to get the most value and get the condition that you want to be cleansed rather than something that you don't really care about cleansing. So for example, a lot of classes use cripple and vulnerability as a cover condition, and those are very low impact conditions because they aren't as effective as, say, like a 4 stack of burning or a 12 stack of poison. Those are the conditions that you really want to get off of you. So what you want to do when cleansing conditions is either cleanse all of the conditions that you can remove with specific cleansing abilities. For example, withdraw will remove cripple, immobilize, and chill before, well, that's all it will remove. And if you use a non-specific condition cleansing skill, like say one that just cleanses conditions to the left, then you have a chance of removing a cripple if you don't use your movement impairing removing skill first. So the order in which you use condition cleansing abilities is pretty important. So generally you want to use specific condition cleansing abilities first, and then non-specific condition cleansing abilities afterwards, and that will cleanse the most conditions, because if you use a non-specific condition cleansing ability and it cleanses a one that you can use a specific skill for, then it's sort of like a waste, right? So for example here, I'm going to be jumped on by a Condi thief, and it's going to put a ton of Condis on me. And as I said before, poison is the most important condition to cleanse. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to panic, and I'm not going to waste all of my condition cleanse until I know that for sure the poison will be cleansed. So I wait for the cover Condis to wear off, because I know that Signet of Agility will clear 3 Condis, and I want poison to be in one of those 3. Otherwise, the poison is going to be there on me, and I'll have cleansed something like weakness or blind that would come off anyways, and I'm going to take more damage than I really want to. Now, there are some exceptions to the leftmost conditions being cleansed first, or the most recent conditions being cleansed first. Like, for example, right here you'll see there's like a weird priority going on with the condition cleansing, and that's generally going to be on a skill by skill basis. Some will be a little less reliable than others, but generally you can rely on the most recent Condis towards the left of the bar to be cleansed first. And if there's a lot of Condis on the other team's comp, you can even slot in Lissa runes or leadership runes, depending on how you want to play, and that will allow you to get more Condi cleanse and allow you to be a little more liberal with your Condi cleanse. to play more aggressively in return. And because of how Thief works in general, a condition-based Thief will still try to focus the lowest target like any other Thief. So if you're low on cooldowns, like I am in this clip, you should immediately go to a no port spot. Condition-based Thieves do not have as much ability to chase through terrain, especially if I'm in a no port spot like this. And since I saw that the Condi Thief on the other team was ready to push into mid, I immediately got to a no port spot, and you can see he's ready to steal on me as soon as I drop down, so I choose to not go down, and my team keeps winning the fight while I'm maintaining my life, waiting for them to get ready to peel for me or until I get my cooldowns back. So Condi Thief in a 1v1 scenario relies on landing its big damage cooldowns after baiting out cleanses and resistance, because there's not really much pressure that they can do. I mean, you can do pressure, but if you're trading blows with the other player, then they're usually going to be doing more damage than you, unless you're using, of course, your big cooldowns like Spider Venom and Steel. So here I'm trying to bait out the resistance so that I can steal into it, but as you can see here, the warrior does have a lot of resistance uptime, but I have annulment sigil on my sword, so normally I'll be sitting in the, so as you can see here, I swap to sword and then I annulment sigil on the resistance, and that helps me to keep up my my pressure to keep the warrior low. And so as you can see here, the warrior is pretty low because I'm maintaining my cooldown rotation, and eventually I can get the kill with Steel here. Now, an important thing to know versus classes that have a lot of counter pressure is that you cannot trade with them because they have more damage output than you, and you're based on more bursts. So you want to be in and out with your burst skills, and then kind of like let your Condis tick while you're waiting for your cooldowns, right? And especially versus like a Curses Necro in this clip, you'll see that I'm trying to bait out the cooldowns, such as the transfers and the full condition cleanse from the heal, because first of all, you don't want to full heal them because they gain more health per Condi that they cleanse from themselves from the heal, but also the transfers are really dangerous because you can kill yourself by giving yourself your own Condi if you don't dodge the Signet or the Shroud or the Staff 4 transfers. And obviously, another thing that you want to do versus Condi Thief is to pressure their sword to return, which will really lower their survivability, because Condi Thief isn't like the same as the normal Sword Dagger Thief where it has acrobatics, so it doesn't have as much sustain. It really relies on the sword to positioning to survive. And as you can see here, the Necro's putting his shade right on my sword to return, and I have no choice but to engage, and I cannot trade with a Condi Necro because they have better sustained damage and survivability than me. So I'm going to die here. And for example, versus like an Engineer, I would usually not 1v1 that because it has probably one of the worst matchups for me because of its insane cleansing ability. But for example, Engineer can really counter pressure Thief because it has such a high CC and damage burst potential, and I have only one stun break as a Condi Thief, so it's really difficult to actually +1 or 1v1 an Engineer because it has the potential to, you know, like 2v1 you if you don't play carefully. And if you're playing carefully, then, you know, you're not going to get the kill, right? So you kind of have to risk it. And Another thing to realize here is even though I get the engineer into S, he can just full reset because all my cooldowns are down. I had to use them to get him to that state, but I don't have anything to finish him off. So you have to still play the +1 role as Condi Thief because you need your teammates' damage to really finish them off. But you want to not panic if you're against a Condi Thief because they're waiting for you to use your cooldowns to do their bursts. And if they do their bursts immediately, then obviously you can just cleanse.